please make sure you finish all your money here in Mombasa. And as a county government, we want to assure the Office of the DPP and the organizers, we have excellent venues that you can be able to visit, from the Akamba Handicraft, where you can get authentic carvings, to our sandy beaches, Mamangina Drive, to the Fort Jesus Historic and other historical places like the Old Town, and so many more. And with your permission, we'll be able to keep a concierge desk to be able to assist your guests to go to wherever it is that they wish to go in Mombasa with a lot of ease. So thank you very much, and karibuni Mombasa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now have the honor of inviting the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, who will also take the opportunity to welcome His Excellency the President. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, all the prosecutors present in this hall today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'll be very brief. One of the things that I have learned is that you should never be on the wrong side of the prosecutors. So I will make sure that I'm very precise, lest we land into trouble. But let me just underscore that we have accompanied His Excellency the President here, and I can assure you that his presence is really a very strong and emphatic message that the rule of law is absolutely critical for a country to function effectively and for the region to function effectively. So with those few remarks, I will now invite His Excellency the President so that he can step forward and make his remarks. Thank you.
Please, let's take our seats. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Mombasa. On behalf of Governor Nasir and the government of Kenya, I take this opportunity to welcome you to Mombasa, this historic city. For those of you who have read a bit of history, this is where Vasco da Gama operated from, and he's taken quite a bit of history lessons in Kenya. So find your way around, you will find traces of Vasco da Gama and all the other people that came around for business, for trade, and eventually became part and parcel of our history. It is an honor for me to join you this morning at this very important gathering. And before I proceed, I take this opportunity to welcome you to Kenya. As you may have already discovered, is a land of unparalleled natural splendor, magical attractions, and wonderful delights, and warm hospitality. We invite you to take advantage of this visit and savor the full range of magical Kenya, and look forward to an experience that you can remember. I recognize Attorney Generals present in our meeting, Directors of Public Prosecutions, and Prosecutors General present in this conference, and I do not take your attendance for granted. Noting that this gathering is our continent's top professionals in law enforcement sector, is the 16th annual Africa Prosecutors Association Conference and Annual General Meeting, I commend the leadership and entire membership of the association for the consistency with which you have pursued the continuous and incremental development of the prosecutorial discipline. The evolution and growth of a Pan-African network of government legal professionals specialized in the domain of law enforcement is a highly encouraging development for many reasons. First, it signifies the entrenchment of a sustainable framework for the consistent enhancement of professional capacity in the areas of public prosecutions. Secondly, this framework holds great promise as a robust anchor for effective collaboration and the establishment and maintenance of effective cross-border networks based on mutual understanding among professionals in law enforcement. Thirdly, with the advent of globalization, the emergence of transnational criminal activities of great variety and complexity, relying on sophisticated technology and taking advantage of public and private sector infrastructures, demands the creation of commensurate law enforcement infrastructure capable of disrupting them and enforcing accountability. Pessimists frequently lament that Africa is vulnerable because it lags behind in effectively plugging into the opportunities brought about by globalization. The existence of a long-standing Pan-African network of specialized legal professionals, however, indicates that we have the potential to get ahead of the most daunting threats to law and order, regardless of sophistication or complexity. Your presence in this forum today is great news for Africa and also for Kenya. This event is highly welcome, and we are delighted and honored to host you. It is not lost on us that the privilege of hosting an event of this magnitude is an expression of confidence in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution here in Kenya. The honor of hosting a continental conference of this standing is not conferred casually or arbitrarily. Because of the transparent and accountable manner in which the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution operates, it is possible to observe the facts regarding its performance and achievements which elicited this tremendous peer endorsement. Since its establishment just over a decade ago, the ODPP has made impressive progress on a consistent basis with cumulatively radical impact on efficiency and efficacy of the law enforcement sector. Year after year, the ODPP has been able to report considerable improvement in the capacity to prepare files and prefer charges which can sustain high rates of prosecution and conviction. To do so, the ODPP deliberately enhanced the professional, technological, infrastructural, and organizational capacity to fulfill its constitutional mandate under Article 157 and 158 of the Constitution of Kenya and live up to its vision to be a just, fair, and responsive prosecution service. In order to fulfill its mission of providing its services impartially, effectively, and efficiently, the ODPP resolved to pursue the strategic path of specialization in the context of incrementally deepening organizational capacity. For this reason, it disaggregated its functions into 3 departments with 16 thematic areas. This facilitated dedicated focus on conventional as well as emerging criminal activity, promoting greater efficiency. As a result, the ODPP is now able to handle corruption and economic crimes, banking and financial crimes, land, environment, and related crimes, international and transnational crimes, as well as organized crime, in addition to a robust capacity to effectively prosecute offenses involving children. Also, gender-based violence, hate speech, and election-related issues, besides others against the persons and offenses against public order. The rate of success has dramatically improved and continues to rise, creating confidence within the rest of the law enforcement chain, as well as the public, that accountability for criminal offenses is a feasible public good. I'm also aware that the ODPP is a highly modernized, professional, and future-looking organization able to effectively engage in a rapidly evolving law enforcement environment. Its responsiveness is enhanced through an active stakeholder engagement strategy. Beyond aspiring to achieve complete digitization, which is part of the overall government policy in digitizing all government services, the ODPP aims to fluently deploy artificial intelligence and blockchain technology to unlock crime mapping, incident, and partner forecasting capabilities. I have encouraged our Director of Public Prosecution to deploy all necessary capabilities, especially in the technology space, with the support of the whole of government, so that we can leapfrog our capabilities and capacities in managing crime, both at national and international level. The ODPP has demonstrated that through scrupulous adherence to its constitutional mandate, continuous pursuit of high professional standards, and strategic leveraging of technology, an institution can grow rapidly within a short period and attain global standards of excellence. I say this also knowing clearly that there has not been a smooth operation of the institution. There's been threats to it from politics and other elements. And when you speak about political goodwill or political will, it is a fundamental ingredient in ensuring that justice is delivered and the criminal justice system remains independent, remains professional, and remains focused on its mandate. I am aware, of course, of the challenges that this office has gone through in the past, and I have given my commitment and that of the government of Kenya to support the criminal justice system and to ensure that the criminal justice system is not weaponized for political reasons. Every citizen, irrespective of their political persuasion, is entitled to fair treatment by all public institutions. It is the least any citizen can expect from government. This broad account serves to demonstrate the steady improvement in the ODPP's role in increasing the effectiveness of law enforcement in Kenya. I am sure that a considerable portion of this impressive achievement is attributed to the fact that the ODPP fraternizes with Pan-African networks of ambitious, professional, effective, and forward-looking professionals determined to keep our territories and people safe and secure. And listening to those of you who have had an opportunity to speak in this conference, I am confident that your influence over our Office of the Deputy, of the Director of Public Prosecution is evident, and I can see clearly that fraternizing with the kind of people, with the kind of experience that I see in this room has greatly improved our own performance of the Office of Director of Public Prosecution in Kenya. And I want to encourage you to continuously ensure that you share experience, you share knowledge, you build networks to support our continent. I am a great believer that this is the continent of the future. We have tremendous opportunity as a continent. We are a continent of great resources. We are a continent that has 65% of all uncultivated arable land in the world, and therefore we hold the future to not only feeding the world, but steamrolling the economy of the world into the future. In any case, a quarter of the people in the world will be living in this continent by 2050, and therefore it is necessary for us to continuously constitutionalize our politics and our governance, democratize our economies, and build sound institutions to protect our governance and to protect our economies. And in the middle of those institutions is the criminal justice system that you, the prosecutors, have the honor to preside over. I want to encourage you that the future of our continent, the future of the institutions of our continent is in your able hands to protect those institutions from criminal elements, from unnecessary and undue political influence, so that we can march into the future knowing very well that we are on sound footing of a constitutional governance framework in our continent, protected by a democratized economic framework that allows every citizen from the bottom up, and ensuring that institutions are built strong enough to secure our collective future. From this point, in the evolution of our prosecutorial institutions, it is time to venture forth into the next frontier. The theme of this conference adequately anticipates the next sequence, demonstrating that our confidence in the power of the APA to challenge, inspire, and positively influence the trajectory of law enforcement throughout Africa is not misplaced. Strengthening coordination and cooperation towards effective cross-border prosecution of transnational organized crimes is highly welcome, timely, and appropriate theme for this conference. Due to its abundant resource of endowments, Africa continues to bear the brunt of transnational organized crimes which relentlessly threaten well-being, security, law and order in all parts of the world, and specifically in our continent. The impact of such threats to the rule of law pose social, political, and economic consequences to our nations and societies of magnitude that are too dire to contemplate. Transnational organized crimes is a lethal and direct threat to the aspirations and goals of Agenda 2063 towards the Africa we want. The rule of law is the foundation of the continent's renaissance and the guarantor of our aspirations to achieve shared prosperity for all our nations in our lifetime. I am very confident that this is achievable, and this conference, therefore, is a platform for professionals to deliberate on collaborative strategies of ensuring that there are no safe havens for criminals in Africa. It is my hope, therefore, that this conference will enable us collectively advance in developing a robust mechanism for detecting and disrupting radicalization of the youth, terrorism and violent crimes, illicit trafficking of arms, narcotics, minerals, flora and fauna, as well as their complementary financial crimes, including money laundering and the technological backbone of cybercrime. The prosecutor's dynamic jurisdiction is ever expanding. Humanity is presently besieged by the adverse effects of the triple planetary crisis, the human contribution to climate change and loss of diversity is posing an existential challenge to all life on Earth. Pollution is, of course, an exclusive human effect. The effort to protect the planet by pushing back on the drivers of the planetary crisis entails efforts to prevent deforestation and the decimation of rare species through poaching and illicit trade. This is the context in which Africa prosecutors must view crimes like poaching, illegal logging, and various configurations of trafficking. This is the urgency with which prosecutors must approach offenses related to pollution in all its manifestations. The stakes are high. Let me say the stakes are very high. I urge you to radically enhance your capacity to pursue and deliver environmental justice, and I commend you for including environmental crime as a transnational organized crime as a subject for your deliberations in this conference. Given that many of the challenges we face in Africa are shared global phenomena, I encourage the Africa Prosecutors Association to expand its collaborative network in order to plug into the framework of international cooperation and develop multilateral strategies for the prosecution of transnational organized crime. And I welcome the suggestions and also the offer by our development partners to work with us in ensuring that we build on the successes that already exist, the networks that already exist, the capacities that are in place for us to improve on our capacities locally and shared across the continent. This conference is therefore an opportune moment to strengthen regional, continental, and global frameworks of cooperation and the collaborative development of bilateral, regional, and multilateral strategies that enhance synergy and leverages the body of existing instruments to prevent and deter new and emerging crimes. Prosecutors are the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system. They are the most visible custodians of the rule of law and the guardians of public interest in the enforcement of accountability for criminal offenses. The expectations which fall on the prosecutor are heavy. To discharge them, prosecutors must enhance the credibility of the institution and overall legitimacy of law enforcement by fiercely asserting their independence, consistently demonstrating fairness, and being guided solely by the law. Let me repeat, guided solely by the law. I understand that prosecutors occasionally come under immense pressure for other political considerations. I want to encourage you that you have an opportunity as a prosecutor to make history, to build an institution that can transcend your own term in office by not succumbing to impunity, by not kowtowing to political convenience, but standing up for the institution that you represent and ensuring that prosecutions are independent in word and in deed. I say so without minimizing the working environment that many of you work under. Sometimes you have huge challenges. Sometimes you have huge and monumental customers, if I may say. And sometimes it is overbearing in an office. I was listening, for example, yesterday, and that's why I know the job of a prosecutor is difficult. I was listening yesterday to one of our politicians who was alleging that members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission went to his house. And he's telling this story 5 months after the act. And he's volunteering this information laced with insinuations that the officials had gone there for something he has not disclosed. It begs the question, if it is true, what were these officials doing in your house at your invitation? Being a candidate, how did you end up inviting officials of an independent body to your house? It also begs the question, you had an opportunity to bring up this evidence of alleged bribery before 7 judges of the Supreme Court. You did not. You have instead chosen to take this big announcement to a political rally. I can see that the job of a prosecutor is really difficult if you have to deal with such. However, the government of Kenya remains committed to promoting public confidence in constitutionalism and the rule of law by respecting, defending, and upholding the independence of national institutions and eradicating undue influence and weaponizing tendencies. We are committed to promoting an ideal environment for the revival of prosecutorial zeal, guided by national values and principles of governance and underpinned by sound grasp of constitutional mandate. I therefore affirm that the government of Kenya will deliver on its commitment to allocate adequate resources to enable agencies throughout the governance, justice, law, and order sector, including the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, to perform their functions effectively and efficiently. We have not, and I have told the Director of Public Prosecution, we have not asked the Director of Public Prosecution's office to do any favor for us in return for funding their office. It is their right to discharge their mandate as an office, that a mandate given to them by the Constitution of Kenya. And we have no trade-offs, and we will have none. We want them to discharge their responsibility. We will do ours, and we must be founded on a firm, strong foundation of the rule of law. It goes without saying that a commitment to prosecutorial zeal must always take full cognizance that we are a democratic society dedicated to the realization of the greatest extent of fundamental rights and freedoms. In this context, the measure of professionalism, integrity, and legitimacy is the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens as the principal end of law enforcement. I think let me repeat this for clarity. I have said the measure of professionalism, integrity, and legitimacy is the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens as the principal end of law enforcement. As I conclude, I commend the Africa Prosecutors Association for graciously designating Kenya to host this year's conference, and congratulate the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution for earning that great opportunity on behalf of Kenya. Being able to join you today has affirmed my optimism in the future of governance, the rule of law, justice, and law enforcement on our continent. And we look up to you as policymakers to stand up to any measure or any kind of impunity in our continent so that we can harness the opportunity and the great momentum that we can to drive our continent into prosperity. The history of peace, security, and shared prosperity in Africa shall have a chapter dedicated to the role of prosecutors in faithfully stewarding sustainable development by safeguarding the integrity of our vital institutions.